Killing me, Smallz.
Hey guys, Colleen Wolfe from NFL Network. And look, you may or may not know, I'm from Philly. I'm ride or die Philadelphia, but especially when it comes to sports. So you guys need to check out Mike Small on the Killin Me Smallz podcast. This guy crushes it, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say next.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Killin Me Smallz podcast. I am your host, Mike Small. I hope you're all staying safe, making sure your families are safe, and making some good choices so some sort of normalcy will come back really, really soon. Today's guest is a college football champion, a two-time All-American at Ohio State, and a Super Bowl champion from the Green Bay Packers. He is A.J. Hawk. AJ played in the NFL for 11 years and is now hosting a very successful podcast called Hawkcast. And he also appears on Sirius XM Radio. AJ is a close friend of Aaron Rodgers, so I'm dying to know how Aaron took the drafting of Jordan Love and if there are any parallels to the Eagles taking Jalen Hurts and how Carson Wentz might be feeling about that in his opinion. Hopefully you find this podcast worth a listen. If so, please subscribe to the Killin Me Smallz podcast. Give us a rating. Give us a review. We're available on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please give me a follow on Twitter at RealMikeSmall, and I'll follow you right back. The Killin Me Smallz podcast is a proud member of the Painted Lines Podcast Network. We are on YouTube and a phenomenal website called thepaintedlines.com. Special thanks to Kobe Fryer and the Matt Black Kia Group for sponsoring the Killin Me Smallz podcast. Get fryered up. Call my guy Kobe Fryer for all of your car needs. And he's helped a ton of people during this time who have been affected financially by COVID. Call him at 609-706-2101. Kick back and enjoy my conversation with the great A.J. Hawk.
Hi, this is Kenny Albert. You're killing me, Smalls. Enjoy the podcast. Touchdown, Ohio State. A.J. Hawk.
A.J. Hawk, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, man, congratulations on an incredible career. Not many people can say they're a college champion and a pro champion.
Yeah, I guess right place at the right time. That's a big part of it. I'm from Ohio and got a scholarship offer from Ohio State. And, of course, I absolutely said yes and went there my freshman year, and we went undefeated and won the national championship. So I guess that's I chose the right time to be born, I guess, and then was drafted by the Green Bay Packers and had a chance in my fifth season to win a Super Bowl. So, yeah, it's definitely something I guess I didn't expect when I was a little kid, but yeah, I'm glad it happened.
It's amazing. It's got to be crazy now that you're out for a little bit to just kind of kick back and think about, how special it's been. I mean, you were a top 5 draft pick in the NFL, a 2-time All-American in college, a Super Bowl and a college champion. I mean, that's pretty historic I don't even know if that's hit you yet.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really give it much thought until, a couple years after we won the Super Bowl, I think. And somebody kind of mentioned it to me. I mean, I was aware of it, obviously, but never really put much thought into it, I guess, when you're kind of in the middle of everything. And then, as I've gotten older and been away from the game a little bit, I realized, okay, I guess that doesn't really happen to everybody. So I'm definitely very appreciative of my college and my time in Green Bay. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of things have to go right. A lot of things, ball's going to bounce your way a few times to make it all the way and win it all, whether it's in college or the pros. And like I said, I'm definitely very lucky to play for an awesome college at Ohio State and awesome coach in Jim Tressel, and then be drafted by the Packers with Mike McCarthy. He was taken over as head coach, played 2 years with Brett Favre as the starting quarterback, and then transitioned to Aaron Rodgers. So been around a lot of great players.
Well, I definitely want to get into all that, but I'm really interested in your freshman year at Ohio State. I mean, that was a team of a lot of characters, right? I mean, that was the Maurice Clarett team, right? And you guys came in, won the national championship, and you're a freshman. What, were you starstruck as a freshman coming into that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I grew up about an hour and a half from Columbus in called Centerville, Ohio. And I grew up with Mike Nugent, who actually was a year older than me.
Oh, the kicker.
I grew up playing sports with Nugent. He went to Ohio State a year before me, hosted me on my official visit and everything. So I got to see a little piece of it then to see, like, okay, this is a guy that I've known since I was 6 years old up here and playing with these guys and getting him to take me around and hang out with all the guys. Yeah, you're absolutely starstruck. You kidding me? These are guys I've been watching play on TV for a while. And when I got to Ohio State, my freshman year, we had, man, our upperclassmen, our juniors and seniors they were true like pros. Like they were all about like work and taking care of each other and getting the job done and being accountable to your teammates. But then they also had a ton of fun off the field too. So it was fun to see. It was real eye-opening, I guess, when I got there my freshman year. Not only like how hard they all worked and how truly good they were at football, but they were very inviting too. Like I remember being like, we break camp. I'd only been on campus for 3 or 4 weeks. We break our first training camp, and the older guys are inviting all of us young guys over to hang out and stuff. And I thought, why would they want us over here? These guys are grown men. I'm an 18-year-old little punk, and these guys are doing their best to try to include us in everything. So I was really appreciative of that and still have a good relationship with most of those guys now.
I mean, you just described yourself as an 18-year-old little punk. I mean, you're on national television every week. You go from an 18-year-old granted, I know how good football is in high school in Ohio, but going from that to national television every week. And, Ohio State has been a legendary program, was down for a while, but you were on the upside of it. And now it's, with Urban Meyer and now after last year, they're back again. Just incredible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Going to Ohio State was something I knew when I was a little kid, of course. That's a dream. That's a fantasy world to think about playing for Ohio State. I mean, all I cared about when I was young, I grew up playing football, baseball, and basketball, but I knew pretty early on in high school if I wanted a scholarship, it was going to come from football. Excuse me. I had an older brother who was 2 years older than me that was a really good quarterback, and he ended up getting a scholarship to play in Miami of Ohio. Played there for a couple of years and ended up transferring because he came in to get in the same class as Ben Roethlisberger. So Ben became Ben. And my brother transferred to Ohio University and started a few years there at quarterback and then played in the Arena League for a little bit. But I knew, I did whatever I could to get a scholarship offer from Ohio State. I remember going to camp after my junior year, heading into my senior year, and I guess did enough there to earn a scholarship offer. And Coach Tressel brought me in his office and offered me, and I committed right there. I tried to commit, and he told me to take some time and talk to my parents and talk it over. And I said, well, believe me, I know my parents well, and they're okay with this. But if that makes you feel better, we'll give you a call when we get home after this hour and a half drive and let you know that I'm for sure committed. And that's exactly what I did.
So you met a girl in Ohio State. You ended up marrying her, and she's got a pretty famous brother. You want to tell us that story, how that happened?
Yeah, it's weird. So I went to Ohio State. My wife is Brady Quinn's sister, and so she is 1 year older than Brady, and I'm so same age as me, and Brady was one class behind me. And I'd never met Brady before that. I didn't know Brady. I knew of him, obviously. And my wife and I kind of met through mutual friends real briefly my sophomore year, but she was in school out in LA, actually going to Cal State LA. She had an internship for Fox and was trying to do some radio TV stuff. And then she came back in town right at the beginning of my senior year, visiting some of her friends because all of her friends were from the area that I live now, and a lot of them had ties to Ohio State. So, yeah, we ran into each other again through some mutual friends, and that's when we officially, I guess, kind of hit it off and became serious. And it was a long-distance thing throughout my senior year at college because she was out in California. And then she ended up coming back to Ohio like in March that year, right before the draft, I believe. And, I got to play against Brady my senior year when we'd only been together for 3 or 4 months, I believe, at the time. It seemed like, my wife wore the split jersey and all this stuff. We were so young and naive. We had no idea. Some guy gave her the jersey and said, yeah, why don't you wear this during the game? And she said, okay, sure, why not? She had no idea that they were going to show her on TV and all this. And she's horrified by that now. Even though she was in school for like radio TV, she didn't want to do like a whole lot of on-camera stuff. So she doesn't really care about being like a public figure. She's not doing that now. She actually has a really good interior design business in Ohio that she's busy with all the time. But yeah, they showed her on TV multiple times, and when she found out about that afterwards, she was horrified, thinking like, "Oh man, that's not what I planned on doing." And she also didn't feel the way she thought she would during the game. She went into the game thinking, "Oh yeah, I want them both to play well and be healthy and everything to go well." And then all of a sudden, we got up early, and I had the chance to hit Brady a few times, and she said she just started getting angry, started getting upset, and telling me like man, she's like, "I didn't know I'd feel that way when you hit my brother a few times." So she was.
You got 2 sacks, right?
It's all part of the story. Yeah, I was able to sack him a few times.
All right, so let me ask you this. So you're on top of him, and I know that there's always, a little bit of trash talk, on the ground. Did you say anything like this one's for dating your sister? Is there anything there?
No, I didn't say. I'm not a big talker on the field, and I didn't even know Brady barely. I met Brady. He came home before that game during their little 3 or 4 day Christmas break. And that's pretty much the first time I met Brady and hung out with him at all, like a week and a half before we played against each other. And then I saw him real briefly the week of the game in Arizona. We played at the Fiesta Bowl. And so I barely knew him. And luckily now I know him really well, and he's awesome. We just did we co-hosted a radio show yesterday at Sirius XM, which I sit in with him every once in a while. He does Monday through Wednesday on the NFL channel there. And I jump in with him when I can. And luckily, yeah, I got lucky, man, because Brady's awesome. My father-in-law is awesome. Obviously, my wife is the best, and I have 4 kids with her. So, yeah, I'm glad it all worked out.
No, that's great that you have that relationship. I've heard you on the radio a few times. You're really doing great. I mean, your podcast is really good. I listened to the Aaron Rodgers interview a couple of weeks ago. What are you really enjoying it?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm a huge podcast fan. I just listen to podcasts all the time.
And you're going to add this one now, right?
Yeah, that's right, man. I definitely am. I'm always searching for new ones, and that's the thing. People always say, like, "Oh, there's so many podcasts out there. Like, what are people doing?" And I'm like, "No, who cares? Have everybody put a podcast out because it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, you're going to sift through what you like and what you don't like, and you're always going to find new ones." So I always would tell people to start them up, man. I'll give it a shot. I'll take a listen, and hopefully it's one that I'm going to subscribe to and listen to weekly.
All right, Killin Me Smallz. We're going to hold you to it.
I'm going to subscribe.
All right, excellent. So, getting back to that Aaron Rodgers interview, that, Aaron Rodgers, you guys have a pretty good relationship, and it, really came off in the interview. I thought you did a great job. You made him feel comfortable. He doesn't do a lot of those types of things, and I thought it was fantastic. But that was about a week or so before the draft. Wonder how he feels after the draft about LeFlore and everything else. What any ideas?
Not really, man. No, I still talk to him and everything. I don't talk to him a whole lot about that situation just because it was so weird how it happened. Yeah, I had him on my podcast, man, I don't know, 4 or 5 days before the draft. And then I do this YouTube show with Pat McAfee 4 days a week. And we did a draft special where we were live for the whole first round. We had Aaron on the show. He FaceTimed in for 30 or 40 minutes early in the first round. And then 10, 12 picks later after he hung up, they traded up and took Jordan Love. So I'm sure his phone was blowing up and getting all kinds of people saying stuff to him. But yeah, it was definitely a confusing thing that the Packers did in that draft. Not only with that pick trading up to take Jordan Love, and nothing against Jordan Love. I mean, he could become an amazing quarterback, but I just feel like with 4 years left on his contract, there's no need to jump out and take a quarterback right now when you have Aaron Rodgers at the helm and you're coming off an NFC championship berth.
It was so crazy. He really went out of his way on your podcast to talk about, how much crap it is in the media about him not getting along with LeFlore. And, LeFlore seemed pretty happy with that pick. I've got to think there's going to have to be some fences mended here.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I have no idea what it'll be like when they get back to the facility. And that's the thing now, where we're at. This is May 7th when we're recording this. We don't know when they're going to go back and open facilities up. So they have all this time where they're doing the virtual meetings and all of that. But it's not the same as being in person and interacting every single day. So I'm sure all sides involved are curious as to how that's going to be. But Aaron will handle it great. He's still going to play. He'll be lights out on the field. He's going to be great to Jordan Love. They're not going to have any issues with that. I think the biggest thing will be a lot of the outside things coming at him that are just going to be frustrating for Aaron and for Jordan Love, probably for LeFlore as well. just asking them so much about their relationship. Are you going to mentor them? What are you going to do? And all this stuff. It's just going to be something that they can't really get away from. And I don't see it dying down. Like as the season goes on, it's always going to continue to be brought up.
Well, you were there when Brett Favre was the quarterback and Aaron Rodgers was drafted, and it's pretty well documented that didn't go real well between those two. Do you remember kind of watching that go on?
Oh yeah, I was there and lived through it. Like I said, Brett was the starter my first 2 seasons there, but we knew how great Aaron was. I mean, he was running the scout team cards against us on defense every single day and was just torching us. Like it seemed like at least 2 or 3 times a week, we'd be watching in our linebacker room with our coach. He would just stop and replay one of the throws that Aaron would make when he was the backup. And like, we just knew right then, like, hey, we love Brett, but whenever Brett moves on, we're going to be in good hands with Aaron Rodgers. And that's what happened. And when Aaron came in, or when he was drafted, and the whole relationship he and Brett had, if there was like this animosity and everything, it never showed. Like he and Brett talked a lot. They communicated a lot. Their lockers were pretty close to each other. Like when both of them were out, like if we're doing special teams or something, they'd take a knee and they'd be talking about the game plan and joking around and everything. They both like to have fun. So it never showed. Like I think that was overblown a little bit. And obviously now they have a great relationship after everything that's gone on. And, playing against Brett when he was in Minnesota, it's just what a weird situation. But it helped, I guess for me at least, it opened my eyes early on in my career, made me realize like, okay, I watched him pretty much push Brett Favre out. Like Brett wanted to come back. And Ted Thompson, the GM at the time, was like, no, he basically said like, hey, we've moved on. Aaron is our guy. And they traded Brett. So I saw Brett get traded away, and I grew up watching Brett Favre play. I mean, Brett made everybody a Packers fan to some extent, I feel like. And I saw that happen. I think that was good for me. Like I never felt comfortable. I never felt like anything was promised, and I knew I could be gone tomorrow.
It's interesting. Obviously your brother-in-law is a great example. It's a guy that, everyone thought was going to be amazing. And Aaron Rodgers just drops in the draft. He just kept falling and falling. Everyone thought he was going to be a top 2 or 3 pick. It's such an inexact science around the quarterbacks, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's so difficult to evaluate the quarterback position. I mean, I say it all the time. Playing quarterback in the NFL is the toughest job in like all of professional sports, both mentally and physically. Like how quick you have to make decisions. And not only that, you have to have the physical tools to be able to deliver the ball there and accurate on time. There's just so much that goes into it and so much that those guys can process in a split second that it's not, a lot of them don't even seem human when what they can do at times. Like I don't think any casual fan has any idea all the things going through their brain pre-snap, during the play, post-snap, like how you just have to continue to regroup, continue to keep your confidence level high. Say you throw a pick 6 in the first series, hey, you got to feel confident stepping back out there the next drive, making that same throw, but you got to make it on time this time. And I just think it's such a tough spot. I don't know how people evaluate it, especially with these college offenses that are so spread out and air raid type things. I know that's creeping into the NFL game too, but man, it's definitely not an exact science.
No doubt. So I'm in the Philadelphia area, and an interesting parallel to what we just talked about with Aaron Rodgers is the Eagles selection of Jalen Hurts in the second round. Carson Wentz is a guy that the Eagles have put a lot of stock into. He's been hurt a lot, but they just signed him to a 5-year extension. What were your thoughts when the Eagles went that direction?
I mean, I was a bit surprised there too. Like you said, Wentz is a young guy that when he's healthy, he can play at such a high level. So I just wonder what their plan is with Hurts. Like if I'm Carson Wentz and I'm the starting quarterback, yeah, of course he's going to say it and do all the right things, and he's going to be a great team player. That's what he always has been. But if you're the quarterback, like I wouldn't want to come out at all. I don't want to have to sub out, even if it's for 3, 4, 5 plays a game. If you want to have a little package for Jalen Hurts, like I want to stay in there and stay in rhythm. And I don't know what they're going to do with him. Maybe they just felt like he's the kind of guy that doesn't come along very often, quarterback position, and how athletic he is and what he can do. They'll get creative with it. But if I was Carson Wentz, I wouldn't be upset at the organization or anything. I would just be confused a little bit of what the plan is with him.
It's interesting, right? I mean, so you watched that dynamic with Favre and Rodgers. And, I've got to think that Wentz and Hurts will, they're both pros. I'm sure, Hurts is famous for just being an amazing backup and teammate. So you got to think he would do that. I wonder if the Eagles felt like, they needed somebody to come in to develop as a quarterback because Wentz has gotten hurt a lot, and you might as well pick the ultimate teammate.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're onto something there. I'm sure that played into it. We saw what Hurts was like throughout his college career and the ups and downs, and you see how highly Nick Saban speaks of him, and Nick Saban doesn't throw praise like that around very often. So I'm sure that was a huge part of the decision. And you're right. I mean, Carson Wentz has been hurt, so you want to make sure you're in good hands and your season's not lost if your starter does go down. I get that. But when it's like a young guy like Jalen Hurts, when they're saying is he like a Lamar Jackson type guy? Is he like Taysom in New Orleans? Is he a guy that you can use like that? I don't know. Maybe you can. He is very athletic and he can play, and he's played in some of the biggest games in college. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I like when the quarterback is like the starting quarterback is there, it's a clearly defined role, and the rest of that quarterback room, if they have two or three guys, like everyone has a defined role and they know what it is. And I think that's when teams run the best. And I just don't know what the Eagles' plan is. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. This draft left me confused from a couple teams, actually.
Yeah, no doubt. You ready for some quick hitters?
Yeah.
All right. Craziest teammate you've ever had?
Ooh. Brady Papinga. You know who that is?
I don't.
Brady Tapp. He's a linebacker with the BYU. He was my roommate for home and away games in the hotel and for training camp my first 5 years in Green Bay before he moved on. And Brady is just, you don't even know how to describe him. Like, what he says, when he doesn't cuss at all, he doesn't drink caffeine, alcohol, eats super clean, like super high character guy, but just absolutely crazy in a great way, and very funny and off the wall, and not scared to give his opinion. He does a lot of different media stuff now, and he's just a guy that anybody that played with Brady, like if you just mention his name and they had been on the team with Brady, they're just going to laugh and smile. And just a lot of the stuff that he has done and said, people just are blown away by it. He's going to always be that guy.
Hardest hit you've ever had that you've delivered?
Oh, that I've delivered. Ooh. Well, we used to play this game in high school in gym class called speedball, and I had a hit my freshman year that still I have never duplicated. It was so clean and felt so perfect on this kid that was in a really bad position going up to get this ball, and it was full contact back then. It's probably the last year you were able to get away with that in gym class.
See, I'm waiting for you to tell me you destroyed Tom Brady or something like that.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's tough to line up and get those big shots on quarterbacks. You're most likely getting a penalty and a fine. I wouldn't say my biggest hits have come on quarterback, but one of the hits that I remember we were at Houston and Arian Foster's playing running back. They were on like the 3 or 4 yard line going in, and I kind of sifted through the line and I kind of squirted through, and I saw Arian coming downhill, and I hit him with just my forehead right in his face, or right in his chest in like area, my forehead face mask. And I had to use so much force and hit him so hard just to knock him sideways to keep him out of the end zone. And it was just such a violent shot. But the crazy thing is, if you watch it on tape, it doesn't look like much at all. Like, it looks like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, you found a way to stop his momentum and put him down. But it was just such a weird, violent shot that I had to use everything I had because Arian was coming downhill and he thought he was scoring for sure. That I even remember in the moment when I hit him, I was like, geez, that didn't feel great. But I was so glad that I got him down before he crossed the goal line. And I even thought of it, though. I'm like, yeah, it's going to look like nothing. But, man, that felt like one of the best plays I've made.
When you were with the Packers, favorite team to play against, the game that you got most fired up to play?
Well, the Bears rivalry is pretty easy to point to. And I knew of the Bears-Packer rivalry growing up and everything, but I didn't truly understand it until I got there. And Coach McCarthy did a great job. The week, like Bears week, was always special. He always made it special. He'd show clips and footage from old games between the Packers and the Bears, and interviews, and you just got to hear from the old guys that made the rivalry what it is. You get to hear how much it meant to them, and I think that really that really sank in with me, and I think the whole team understood that. And it's like any rivalry game. Like when you play those guys, there's something in the air. There's some kind of added electricity there that makes it special.
What is something that nobody would know about Clay Matthews?
Ooh, something that people wouldn't know
I
about
love
Clay.
that I didn't give you any of these questions beforehand.
No, you didn't. Even if you did, I don't know. That's a tough one to even think about. Honestly, I don't know. Clay's not a super public guy, I guess, but people might not. They probably. I feel like I don't know this for sure, but if it wasn't like if Clay's hair, if his hair wasn't so nice and so long and so much volume and sponsorship deals, he'd probably cut his hair. He would probably cut his hair a long time ago. I feel like because I had long hair for a while too. It's a lot of work, man. You gotta have some upkeep. And Clay's hair is nice. Mine was not nice. I didn't have much upkeep. Like Clay's is really nice. He takes a good care of it. And I think it became such a thing with him that he felt like he kind of has to keep it. And maybe if it didn't like become a thing, he may have had short hair for a long time by now.
Anybody ever pull your hair in a scrum?
Not intentionally. No one ever did that, but unintentionally, yeah. Like when linemen come out to block you and they shoot their hands at you, a lot of times they'd catch some of my hair and everything in the middle of the play, but I never had anybody intentionally pull it like on a pile or anything.
So a funny story. You and I both share a really good friend, your agent, as my friend Mike McCarthy. And I don't know if you ever see this on Twitter, but everybody thinks Mike McCarthy is your coach, your former coach, Mike McCarthy. And people tweet at him after Packers losses. Now they're tweeting at him about, what the Cowboys did in the draft. And have you ever seen any of that?
Oh, yeah, I have. Yeah,
it's literally my favorite thing on Twitter.
Well, then there's someone in the media named Michael McCarthy, too.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
I was confused. I don't know who he works for, but I think I don't know what he reports on exactly, but it is football. He goes by Michael McCarthy. I'm like, okay, this is confusing for everybody because I played for Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy was my agent. Now this guy, Michael McCarthy, is out here breaking news or doing whatever he's doing. I see it pop up on Twitter sometimes.
That's awesome. It's actually so much fun to read because Mike McCarthy never tells anybody that's who it is. He just responds like, yeah, I haven't coached a game in a long time or whatever he says. It's pretty funny. You gotta watch it. Yeah. Man, I can't thank you enough for being on the podcast, AJ. It's tell everybody where they can find you. I know that you're on Sirius. Tell them about your podcast. And
I'm kind of all over the place. Yeah, I do my own podcast called The Hotcast. I'm hoping to get more consistent with it. It's tough to book.
It's really good.
Come on and do all that. Yeah, I enjoy it. I've had Aaron Rodgers on a few times and a bunch of all kinds of people. John Daly, Charles Barkley, astronauts, Rob O'Neill, the guy who shot Bin Laden. I've had him on twice. Got to meet some great people through that. But I bounce around on Sirius XM too, on the college channels, the NFL channel there. I've done some MMA shows there as well. I'm a big fan of MMA. And then I do 4 days a week. I do this YouTube show with Pat McAfee called McAfee and Hawks.
He's hilarious, by the way. I've watched that. It's really funny.
He's amazing. Yeah, Pat's amazing. Pat, I got to call a game with Pat a couple of years ago for Fox. We did the Baylor Texas Tech game and did a podcast with Pat a couple of years ago and gotten to know him well over the years. And he's not only is he so talented and so good on camera, but he's an awesome guy and very funny. And he's the same way at all times. He's not playing a character by any means.
AJ, can't thank you enough for being on the podcast. Folks, we'll be back next week with another episode of the Killin Me Smallz podcast. Again, Killin, Killin, me, Smallz with a Z. Give us a rating, give us a review, and would really love to hear from you. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next week. Many people want to do more during this time of COVID-19, want to help and want to contribute. One such place to think about is A Need We Feed, a wonderful charity that helps feed the homeless. This charity was called into action to now save local restaurants as well. They started an initiative called Supporting Our Restaurants as We Help Others. They use the donations they receive to purchase discounted meals from their restaurant partners who are barely staying afloat. Then they distribute those hot meals to those in need. It's a win-win. They are now being asked to provide 800 meals a week to big brothers, big sisters, children and families, our veterans in distress, our homebound seniors, homeless teens, frontline workers, and our emergency families in need. Please check out www.aneedwefeed.org to find out how you can support or reach out to me through this podcast. I'll put you in touch with them. A Need We Feed, doing great things for our community.